In today's video, we are going to be talking about what it actually costs to enter the world of Warhammer 40k. We're going to be talking about what tools you need, what kind of base equipment you need, and the cost of the miniatures at the very beginning of your journey if you're starting out from scratch. And spoiler, it is not $500 like most influencers and content creators I've seen suggest. So let's talk about a ton of graphs, tables, and talk a little bit about the price of entering Warhammer 40k. If you enjoy the content, consider leaving a thumbs up and subscribing, as well as checking the links in the description below if you want to support what I do. My name is Senpai, this is Senpai of Wargames. So as you may have heard in the intro, what prompted me to make this video is that we are basically at the start of a new edition. A lot of new players and people from outside are considering starting this hobby and picking it up for the first time. And whenever I watch kind of different content creators, they are doing their fun little battle report or something, and they are not scripted or anything, they are just, bantering back and forth. The thing I hear the most is, if you want to get into Warhammer 40k, you better prepare $500 or you're going to struggle. And while, a lot of people say that haphazardly or without, a lot of research behind that or without, meaning anything bad by it, a lot of people are actually scared off by that. And the effect those people have and those content creators have is astounding. So whenever those people drop those bars, I'm not going to name any content creators, not here and not in the comments either, but whenever those people drop those lines and they have thousands of subscribers and viewers, it actually scares new players off, and it is completely unnecessary to do that, because the actual cost of getting into Warhammer 40k is much more in the realm or neighborhood of $150, and it is a big gap between $150 and $500. So the first table I wanted to look at is the cheapest option possible, and this is basically the best way to get into Warhammer 40k, at least in my opinion, but it requires you to make some separate purchases, to maybe buy things from different retailers and split the box. So it requires a little bit of additional work. So what we are looking here is the baseline of stuff you need. I've been talking about this particular table with my community over on Discord, and I've asked them whether something is missing, and they've pointed out a couple of things that are a little bit more specialized, like, sanding sticks and, additional tools that are super handy, but not necessarily required at the very beginning of your hobby journey. And the stuff you see here in front of you is stuff that you desperately need at the very beginning. There's no wet palette here listed because it is super easy to make one of your own. And, and those additional tools are not necessary either because, they are just additional stuff that makes your life easier down the line. But at the very beginning, this is all you need. And as you can see, we're talking about $166, and most of the prices I estimated here are actually rather high. I'm fairly certain you can get a spray primer for plastic miniatures in the US for $5 or thereabouts. So I've been very conservative when it comes to the general pricing and my estimates that you can see here. Generally speaking, you are going to be able to save a lot more. Another thing to consider is that the Ultimate Starter Set Split is included in here because you're getting 2 full Combat Patrol boxes. So the price you see here is not only a Combat Patrol that is fully playable out of the box, but also a little bit of terrain. So you need to split that back and forth. And if you give your friend the terrain, you can get away with getting your half for even less. And if you buy that specific box at a third-party retailer, you're going to save another 20%. So you're going to be looking at somewhere in the neighborhood, realistically, if you really kind of go the extra mile, give your friend the additional terrain, go to a third-party retailer, buy all of the stuff that you can see for the cheapest price possible, because you can find all of that for way cheaper than GW offers it. You're going to be easily below $150, and you're going to have a fully playable force that is not only painted but also doesn't have any mode lines or anything, because the hobby knife is going to help you. You're going to have specific clippers that are going to help you to get your miniatures out of the sprue. Plastic cement, the price you can see here may seem a little bit high to you, but this is the price that is suggested for the Tamiya super thin. That is the best glue out there, and even as a beginner, I highly suggest you buy Tamiya super thin. It's by far the best glue out there. It works like a charm, And if you're specifically thinking about collecting miniature lines that are a little bit more finicky, looking at Necrons, for example, which are very popular, extra thin cement is going to be additionally helpful because it dries very quickly and you don't need to hold tiny parts like from the flayed ones or from tomb blades or anything for very long. So this is why the price for the plastic cement is a little bit higher than you might expect. Brushes, you can buy them for very cheap from Amazon. I usually suggest to buy a big pack of super cheap brushes from Amazon and one kind of medium layer brush that is a little bit better and taking care of that one for very specific parts of your miniature. And yeah, that usually works like a charm. So you have your cheapo brushes for the heavy duty work and one of your better brushes for detail work and all that good stuff. And for paints, I'm usually expecting, for 18 pounds, you're not going to get a whole lot of paints, but you're going to get enough to paint a miniature to a tabletop standard. Even GW paints at 20% off. So you should be fine with around 20 pounds, $20, maybe a little bit more depending on how complex your paint scheme is, but you can easily get away with that price, especially if you look at cheaper paint lines, especially looking at Army Painter and their speed paint range. That one is very cheap, especially here in Germany and, the middle of Europe because they're produced in Denmark. They're going to be a little bit more expensive in the UK because, of tariffs and so on. So yeah, you can easily get away starting your entire journey for below $150 and not $500. That is the point I'm trying to get across here. Now you could go even cheaper. Instead of splitting the ultimate starter set, you could split the regular one, go on eBay and buy the two miniature sets or units missing for approximately $10 each. They're dirt cheap. The librarian is missing from the regular starter set and one unit of Barbgons. And on eBay, they're literally selling them right now for 12 euros, $10, $12, around that price range. So you could go even cheaper if you wanted to. So yeah, the hobby is not as expensive. Even if you wanted to go to a 1000 points army and upgrade your Tyranid or Space Marine Combat Patrol, you're still going to be far, far below $500. You're going to be sitting more in the neighborhood of, I would assume, $250-ish, And it is absolutely fine because all you really need to do after, getting one of those Combat Patrols or splitting the box, you could easily add just another Combat Patrol box on top of it with 20% off. You're probably paying, I don't know, in the US, $110 or something. So you're sitting, if you buy everything at a third-party retailer and at the cheapest price possible, maybe at around $260 to $300 for an entire 1000 points army. It's that easy. I do have another table though that I wanted to show you, which I called the realistic option, which is kind of wrong, but it's the all GW option where someone just goes into a store, is prepared to spend a ton of money and go out there with everything they need. So as you can see, the GW primer is going to be quite expensive, but it works well. The price you can see here is the price for White Scar primer. The Combat Patrol box is the regular price. All the paints you can see here is going to be a full-on, what GW calls parade-ready paint set. So you don't just apply 3 different colors and shade them a little bit and call it a day. You're also having a couple of paints to pick out metallics, to pick out a couple of details, to pick out highlights and all that good stuff. And that is why the paints are so expensive. And they are all GW paints as well. So they are going to be a little bit more expensive anyway. And the tools are basically the GW knife, the clippers, and the glue. Now, the tools are the most problematic thing about this entire thing. While I don't think the GW tools are bad by any means, they are so expensive. You can get a basic scalpel or hobby knife for a fraction of the price the GW one costs. And the GW knife is not that much better, if at all. So if you want to go to GW and buy everything in one go, I would highly suggest you can buy the GW primer. White Scar is an excellent primer. You can buy the GW paints. You are going to get the most support. Whenever you look at a lot of the painting videos, a lot of those painters are going to suggest GW paints if you look at Necron tutorials specifically or something. But the tools are something I would urge you to buy separately because you're not going to pay £50 or almost $100, but instead you're going to pay $30 or £20. And it is a massive difference. But even if you go The all GW way, you're paying $345. And remember, you can get those, all of those, for 20% off or 15% off, depending on where you live in the US. And you can easily push that price for below $300. So again, even if you go the worst option possible, you're going to be far below $500. So, you know, while GW and Warhammer 40K in general is an expensive hobby, games like Magic the Gathering, other tabletops and so on are definitely catching up. And it's not as bad as it once was. Combat patrols are the best way to get into the game. Splitting up a starter set, if you happen to have a friend that really wants the other half and you want, you know, Space Marines and your friend maybe wants Tyranids, in that case, it is perfect. If someone kind of, you know, goes the compromise route and says, you know, I can go with Tyranids if you want Space Marines just to get you into the hobby, that is something that you could push for, you know, depending on your friends and so on. Just don't be an ass about it. If you can't find anyone to split the box with, just go for a separate Combat Patrol box from the faction you want. And don't just buy the Ultimate Starter Set or the regular starter set because they are the cheapest options. Go for the army you want. The starter sets are just a way to get into the hobby for very, very little money. So that is something to consider. Other than that, we obviously have battle forces that are going to release down the line during the Christmas period. I strongly predict that you are not going to be able to play them out of the box unless GW specifically designs those battle forces to be 1000 points lists. That would be very surprising. So yeah, the best option literally to get into Warhammer 40k as an absolute beginner is either the starter set or the Combat Patrol boxes. From there, you can slowly expand and you have a fully playable force out of the box. So consider that. So yeah, that is all I wanted to really talk about. It's just 2 tables. I wanted to show a little bit the pricing and how much it actually costs to get into the game. Explain a little bit why I'm a little bit annoyed by the general kind of idea that Warhammer is a game that is kind of unobtainable and the price is so insane that no one can actually afford it. Yes, Warhammer is not cheap. You know, it's plastic miniatures at the end of the day. And even if you go the cheapest route, you are going to be spending $150. But it is absolutely something that you could achieve if you save up a little bit. And, you know, if you are not completely, you know, in a demographic that is really struggling when it comes to financials. So, yeah, that is just something I wanted to talk about. If you have any opinions, any suggestions when it comes to getting tools at a cheaper place, if you have any primer suggestions or, you know, paints that you like that are cheaper than GW paints, all that good stuff, throw all your recommendations down below. Just quickly mention where you are from, because that is super important when it comes to primers and so on, because those are quite region dependent, because shipping those around the world is quite problematic. And yeah, just, you know, let people know in the community where they can get good stuff, good products for little money, and, you know, get into Warhammer 40k and actually start playing. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope this was insightful and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.